So I wanted to make a video about breathing mechanics and breath work, especially ribcage mechanics. I see a lot of people taking interest in breath work in sport performance, which is a really good thing. But a lot of people will make the mistake of ignoring good breathing mechanics and ribcage mechanics when they do so. I see a lot of people get coached into belly breathing, which is the correct way to breathe. We want to breathe low. We don't want to breathe high. But when we do belly breathing, I see a lot of people take it and do it a little bit incorrectly. They'll be flexing their way downward in order to force an outward projection of their belly. So I'll see belly breathing that looks like this, and where they're almost flexing their way with their ribcage inward and downward in order to project their belly out when they breathe in. It's counterproductive. We have to learn to breathe 360 degrees. We want to breathe 360 degrees with our diaphragm in order to get our ribs to work mechanically correctly. We need our ribs to be able to move in order for us to perform well in sports, especially rotational sports. Most of my populations are rotational athletes. We have to get supple, mobile rib cages in order to do that. And if we're breathing and we're keeping our ribs locked down when we breathe, then we're not accomplishing that task, especially if we're only breathing out front, projecting our belly button forward. We have to be able to breathe 360 degrees. So with that being said, here's a few drills that you can do to practice that. So the first step for a lot of people is to learn how to turn off the movement of their upper chest when they breathe. So this is usually step one that I teach. I'll have them lay on their back, one hand here on the belly. Now the key here isn't to worry too much about 360 degree breathing yet. We just want to worry about not lifting here. So I'm taking a hand, and I'm going to try to breathe through my nose without moving this hand. I want to only move this hand. So I have to close my eyes to think about it. Most people don't, but I get distracted. So I have to go here. And you might say, well, it looks like you're just pushing forward. And that's okay to start with. It's okay to start with that. The important thing is that I'm not moving the top hand. Okay, we'll address 360 degree breathing once we know that I'm capable of breathing without lifting here, because that's worse. Okay, once we can eliminate that, then we start to really practice the 360 degree breathing. The next step after that is usually taking both hands and putting them low. Once I know I can breathe without this, I take both hands and I put them low. I might put a pinky here and a thumb here. Sometimes I have them just go flat, whatever works. Now the important thing is that I'm expanding outward, this way, not just this way. So I want to expand outward here. So I'm going here. And the differences will be a little bit subtle, but I want to feel my pinky and my thumb spreading apart, moving outward. Okay, now the next step, once we've established that we can breathe on our back, is I often will have guys lay down on their belly and see if they can literally breathe into their back, into the rear part of their rib cage. Okay, so you're on your stomach, put your head down, and I'm looking to expand through here, through the lower part of my rib cage. I'm looking to expand 360 degrees, literally breathe into my back. So I'm going to be here. And I want to feel my entire rib cage expanding 360 degrees as I go. Okay, so I briefly alluded to the fact that this is really good for rotational athletes. So I'm going to show a couple of things that you can do to really emphasize the 360 degree breathing mechanics of the rib cage and improve your ability to rotate utilizing that. So the first one is standing, and I'll have a guy just try to separate his shoulders and his hips and his pelvis. His shoulders and his pelvis get to different angles and then execute some of that breathing. And he's trying to figure out if he can breathe 360 degrees here, can I do it here? And if I can do it in lots of different positions, then I know that my ribs are moving effectively. I know that they're working with my thoracic spine effectively. And I know that I can own a lot of different positions throughout. Now, standing is too weird for somebody, or they can't quite figure it out. I find that all fours works pretty well. So I'll have them get down on all fours like this. Okay? Put a hand on the back of their head, maybe just extend it out, and they'll rotate and they'll open up. Eyes follow, usually helps. And they'll breathe in that position. Now you'll see a lot of mobility drills where we rotate on the inhale and we'll exhale on the return. Now that's not wrong at all, but I find that if we're really just focusing on the breathing mechanics of the rib cage, then exhaling and inhaling in the rotated position can really focus the brain on what it feels like to move in those positions. And then we can include inhale, exhale movements as well. Okay, so what's the point of all this? The point is that if I can move effectively and I can breathe effectively in my rib cage, then I have more access to better positions and more stability in those positions. Okay, so if I'm a pitcher and I'm looking to get down a mound and I want to get into those extreme positions that I might get into, which we all know sometimes look insanely torqued, right? Like I've got ribs going this way, I've got pelvis going that way, I've got shoulders going this way, my elbows are flying all kinds of different directions. I need to be able to own these positions and move my rib cage effectively. Same goes if I'm a hitter, although albeit we're not getting into as extreme of positions, but if I want to be able to own a hinge and rotation, and I want to drive hip separation and come through a baseball, then I know that I need to be able to move effectively through the lower parts of my rib cage and my thoracic spine. If you're not a baseball player, we have to have all those positions in lots of other sports. Golf is obvious. We have to have all kinds of access to positions to rotate in golf. Hockey, a little bit less obvious, but if I'm hitting a slap shot, or even just skating, anybody who's watched somebody skate knows that it looks a lot like this. If I can't access positions in the lower part of my rib cage, I'm not going to be able to do that at all. Okay, and it starts with my ability to control my diaphragm correctly and my aerobic system correctly.